G'day, mate.
Hey boys, so the new balance patch came out last night. I've had a quick little look through it to see if there's anything much in there, but let's just go through them all one by one here and just see exactly what's going to be good, what's going to make it sort of a fairly big change, and which ones are just some of the ones they just add in for extra fluff that probably isn't going to make a shit of a difference. But let's just go through them and have a bit of a look here. So first up, we have the Dark Barbaric King with the Frenzy. So getting a turn from Frenzy skill limited to 3 turns now per turn. 3 activations per turn. So this just means you can't basically get the OP Google replay. Not going to see any more 20-turn Barbaric Kings on Reddit. But still basically isn't going to change him too much. For the majority of the time, he never procs more than 3 times anyway. But I suppose this just removes the extreme unlimited ceiling that he had prior to this. So that's a bit of a whatever change, I suppose. The light Horus here. So his passive recovers the ally's HP by 10% per harmful effect granted on the ally after the turn ends. Has gone up to 30%. Okay, so that's actually a reasonable. That's a fairly big increase. You know, an extra 20% healing whenever they have a harmful effect on them. So that one's actually not too bad. Decent. If you're a light Horus owner, congratulations. You got a nice little buff there. The Fire Mage, Chaos Magic Circle. When you're attacked while having magic spheres, increase your attack bar by 25%, has gone up to 50%. Okay. That's actually not too bad. I wonder if that's a bit of a buff to the Fire Mage, perhaps to try and counter, say, Oliver, which is a attack bar pushback unit. So now when you hit her trying to push her attack bar back, she'll actually get a bigger boost. So potentially a decent, another decent Oliver counter. There's already a couple, and Tara's being the best one. But now perhaps the Fire Mage could also be a decent counter into Oliver. I know a bunch of people are struggling with that unit in particular. And he hasn't been nerfed in this patch, which a lot of people were actually expecting. It looks like they haven't really done any nerfs in this patch, which personally I think is okay. In fact, they're perhaps looking to buff other units to deal with the problems that people are having rather than continually nerfing things. So we'll see how it goes here through the rest of it. The Wind Mage increases your attack power and defense by 10% each, up to 300% whenever an ally attacks an enemy. To now increases the damage by 5% each, up to 200% whenever an ally attacks an enemy. And so instead of upping your attack power and your defense by 10%, it's now just gonna up just your raw damage, which is actually a much better buff. And then effect added decreases the damage taken from the enemy by 20%. That's not bad because you do need her alive for a reasonable amount of time. 5% each up to 20%. So you're looking at, that's 40 turns, so that's a lot of turns. So you do need her alive for a while. So adding the decreased damage by the enemy by 20% will help her out with that. Leave her alive longer to potentially get that stacked and damage up, where she can really start to snowball come late game. So that's a pretty decent buff for her. Have to be tested as well. Like I said, 40 turns is a lot of turns in RTA. So that still might not be enough, but we'll see how it goes. Definitely for those bruiser comps where you are trying to stay alive a lot longer, and perhaps paired with something like a Nana, which is a reviver, again keeps you alive a bit longer. That could be really good there. The Light Mage, Time of Destruction. The damage increases in proportion to the enemy's destroyed HP. Okay, so perhaps just a damage buff for her, I suppose. Damage buff, which, I mean, again, I still don't think she's that great. I still don't think you'll see a lot of her, but at least they're looking at her and going, okay, she needs something here. We want to try and make her usable. Let's keep tweaking her and see if we can get her usable. They do this a lot, where you'll see the same unit repeatedly buffed patch after patch after patch until they get that unit usable and where they want it. So at least they're working on it, right? If you're a light mage owner, you got hope. You've got hope. The Fire Totemist, Fire and the Dark Totemist here. So Totem Friends. So this is their skill 3, I believe. 3. Disturbs a recovery for 2 turns with a 50% chance into, in fact, now provoke. So this is actually a strip into a provoke. That's actually pretty strong. That's actually pretty strong. That's actually not bad. I recently pulled Nora and I was very disappointed. I'm not gonna lie, but that's actually not too bad. That's actually not too bad. A strip into a form of CC. You know, I mean, like that's basically Gianna's kit. This isn't quite as strong, but that's very reasonable. That's very reasonable. And then the fire volcanic tribe totem. So this is the totem effect when you get the 3 totems stacked. Removes 1 beneficial effect to now removes all beneficial effects. That's a good change. That is actually a very good buff because one beneficial effect with things like Wooster and that running around, it's not really enough. And the same with Riley, right? Riley and Wooster, they both put immunity with a second buff. Wooster with the shield, Riley with the attack buff. So that's a lot better, a lot better. Removing all beneficial effects. And then the Dark Totemist, the Half Moon Tribe totem. So basically the same thing for the totem skill there. The Onmyoji, the Dark one, Curse of Death, cannot recover HP while the Curse of Death is granted. Okay. Can change the amount of HP through skills that change the HP ratio. Okay. Okay, so can't recover HP, but you can do things like who does the change? Young Hong, I believe, does change the amount of HP through skills. Those sorts of things, right? So if they're not a heal, they're just a manipulate health bar instead of an actual heal. That can still go through. The Light Epicon Priest, Light of Revival, decrease the cooldown by 1 from 8 to 7 turns. Okay, just a little touch up there. Probably still not going to be that relevant. The Chimeras. So this is what I was talking about before, right? With the Water Chimera here, Taylor. So Taylor's been buffed now, like, you know, the last, I'd say 3 out of the last 5 patches, maybe even 4 out of the last 5 patches. That's one where they just keep tweaking him, and you are actually starting to see Taylor actually rise in popularity, especially in the Swift-Verd or a CC Cleave team. He's actually a very strong unit for that now. So both him, the Lagmaron, and the Shan have all received a buff to their Squall. So it always lands as a critical hit when you attack the enemy under inability effects. So I think all of them have a inability effect on their skill 3. Taylor with the single target freeze, the Lagmaron with the... It's not reliable is the only problem with Lagmaron. It's only a 75% chance to stun on his skill 3 AoE. And then the Shan, the light one, he has a... he's probably actually going to benefit the most from this because he has both the AoE stun, the attack bar pushback, puts a speed buff on his team, plus boosts his team. So he has the greatest potential to stun a unit and then still take another turn before they go while they're still stunned to get the Squall off. However, even with the Water and the Wind one, like I said, in those CC teams where you are typically running a lot of attack bar manipulation in pushback, or boosting with the Verd that a lot of people are running in CC Cleaves these days, that will be great. It'll mean you'll be able to build him on a lot less crit rate, stack his stats elsewhere, and still run him on really high crit damage and get a lot of damage out without having to as many stats needed in the crit rate department now. So that's actually a very reasonable buff for those units, depending on the team that you're running, whether or not you can manipulate them to make sure that they are kept stunned, frozen, slept, any inability effect. Also potentially a lot more viable on a violent set now with the potential to skill 3 into the skill 2, guaranteeing that you have a target to hit that is still under inability effect. So that's actually really strong and very decent buff for them. You see a lot of units when they get that style of buff where a one of their moves no longer requires crit rate, that they actually perform a hell of a lot better in RTA, Tiana being the most recent one that comes to memory, where she doesn't need crit rate now for her skill 2 and can just do massive damage and save a lot of stats and put them into other places elsewhere just to bring the overall strength of the unit up. So that's a really nice buff. The Dark Harp Magician, Song of Switch Destiny, now increases the attack bar of all allies by 15%. That's actually pretty good. She has a pretty high base speed too, I believe, with like 113 base speed. So that's actually very, very good. You could potentially use her now as a attack bar booster into a cleave team. or you can still use her typically in like more of a bruiser style match, and she just gives your team an extra bit of attack bar there. So that's pretty strong. The M Bison, or the Light Slayer, absorbs the HP of all allies by 50%, has now changed to absorb the HP of all allies by 30%, but also absorbs the HP of all enemies by 15%. That's actually pretty good. One, you're not killing your units as much anymore, so it's only 30%, not 50%, so that's a good start. But absorbing the enemy's HP by 15%, that's great, because typically he's moving before all your units anyway, so that's just a nice little bit of fluff damage that you can put in there before your damage dealer, like a Lucian or a Julie or Kaki or whatever your damage dealer is. You're getting that little bit of fluff damage out from him as well as having the attack bar boost put on. So that's actually pretty strong for him. I still don't think you're going to see a lot of him in RTA, because as an attack bar booster, while he's good now, his base speed is so low that for an attack bar booster in RTA, not really that relevant. But for things like Guild War, Siege, and your Arena offense, he's just got a lot stronger for those. And I think you'll be able to use him a lot more in those areas now. Ken, or the Fire Shadow Claw. So this is their skill 3 here. Removes one beneficial effect on the enemy per hit with a 30% chance. That's actually really good. I'm a big fan of Ken. I've been using Ken since he came out. It was a bit disappointing when he got caught in the Water Ryu Crossfire, I believe, and his skill 2 got nerfed. But this is actually a really nice buff here. So now he has 3 chances with a 30% chance to land a strip with his skill 3. So you can potentially strip into branding, and then gets guaranteed another turn if he lands all 3 hits as a critical hit. And then you can go into the skill 2. So he's actually now got a multi-strip on skill 3 and a multi-strip on skill 2, which is AoE. So he's actually pretty nice, as well as he's big damage. He's massive damage for a stripper. So for a free-to-play unit, he's one of the best strippers out there. I've been using him for quite a while, and he just got a nice buff. Honestly, like an extra strip on skill 3. That's really strong. Really strong. The Fire Hell Lady, Soulcrusher. You'll be immune with the Endure effect to death for 1 turn if you defeat the enemy with this attack. You now get that basically without any conditions, so you don't need to kill the unit to grant yourself the Endure effect, which is pretty good. Nice little buff for her. Don't know how much you'll be seeing her, but this is I would say a bit of a buff to a anti-revive unit. Would be I think come to us trying to address Nana. Nana has been a bit of a problem for a lot of people with the revive mechanic being a passive and not being able to be reset. So buffing an anti-revive unit like the Fire Hell Lady here, that's actually not too bad, and potentially you'll be able to see her and use her a lot more now because she's got this buff in RTA against things like Nanas with some squishy wind units like a Changpeng maybe, or a Ciara. Something like that, or an Ethna, that's paired with the Nana here. So that's not too bad. The Wind Demon, the Soul Stealer passive, creates a shield equivalent to 15% of your max HP for 2 turns after attacking on your turn. Okay, that's not bad. Wind Demons, again, basically a direct counter to Nana. So again, the fact that they're buffing him, I believe this is them trying to address the problem of Nana without actually having to nerf it, which personally I prefer that Come To Us does go in this manner. Unless a unit is absolutely broken, I don't think they should be nerfing it. And right now, I know that Nana and Oliver are both very strong, but they're not, in my opinion, broken. When you compare them to some of the LDs, they're maybe on par or just below things like Ragdoll and Gianna. So once you start nerfing some of the natural element 5-star units in that way, all you're doing is increasing the gap to the LDs and increasing the gap to basically the whales or the people that have got extremely lucky and pulled those units. So this keeps it a bit more balanced for the majority of the population. Obviously, if you don't have Oliver or Nana either, well, you're behind the 8 ball even more, but they're at least buffing some of the counters here to potentially help you deal with those issues. The Water and Light Lightning Emperor, learn knowledge passive. So gain 1 knowledge if you have 2 or fewer knowledge at the start of each turn. This is good. This is actually really good because a lot of the time, I know especially with Bulwark, people will bring Bulwark into a Riley and then Riley just doesn't use any of its skills. It just continually skill ones and basically makes Bulwark a dead unit. So this is at least he can start gaining a few more stacks if you have 2 or fewer. So he'll go up to 3, I believe, 2 or fewer. He'll still gain 1 when he has 2. So he'll go up to 3 stacks without your enemy or you having to put on any buffs. So that's a nice little buff there for those. Okay, the Valkyries, the water, fire, and light. So basically their skill 2s have all had an increased damage by approximately 7%. So, okay, 7%. Which, sure. They all need a buff. I think they all need more than that. But whatever, right? They all got it. This is another one of those units where they got tweaked last patch, where they got the skill 1 very low chance. I believe it's only 20% or maybe 25% to increase the cooldown of the unit they hit with their skill 1 by 1 turn. So they are slowly getting tweaked. Comtois is aware that these units have basically fallen off due to power creep from other units, newer units, and other things getting buffed. So they're aware that these units are not really playable right now, and they're trying to fix the problem slowly without over buffing them, which is a pretty good thing because we don't want to have a season where a unit's just absolutely broken and over buffed, like we had with the Wusa meta or like we had with the Joe Gun and more meta. So it's the steady but slow approach is perhaps better in this case. The Water Valkyrie also received a second buff as well. So recovers the HP of the ally with the lowest HP ratio by 10% at the start of each turn, excluding yourself. Okay. That's not bad. That's not bad. 10% HP recovery. Kind of like it's like a budget molly in terms of a passive heal to the team. So sure. I still don't think that's going to be enough to see a lot of gameplay out of her, but again, like, you know, they're working on these units, so that's not bad. That's not a bad little buff there. The Fire Polar Queen, Touch of Mercy. So this is the skill 3. Inflicted damage is increased by 30%, has gone up to 40% for each harmful effect or beneficial effect on the enemy. Okay, so a bit more damage, which is going to help in, I know a lot of people use her in Rifts. I think some people use her in some speed PvE dungeon teams as well. And she's actually really good in solo R5 as well. So a bit of a buff for all those areas. She does have a 44 HP arena lead. Will this be enough to see her rise in popularity in RTA? Probably not. I know some people already do use her in RTA, but I mean, you know what? It's, again, a little bit of a buff. Perhaps they're recognizing that she's not really being used that much, and they're potentially trying to get her into RTA. We'll see. She'll need another buff to become sort of meta relevant in RTA, I think, above that. But this will be great in the meantime for any of the PvE applications that you use her for. The Fire and Dark Archangel, they have got their defense break now. 100% chance, perfect. That's good. That's what they need. I think it's only a 1-turn defense break though, which is probably not really good enough. But again, it looks like they're working on him, especially the Dark One Fermion. I know a lot of people, basically he's pretty much useless in most areas of the game. So they're working on it, and with another buff or two like that, he may get some gameplay out of in some areas of the game. We'll see what happens. The Fire Monkey King. Okay, so the Fire Monkey Wand, his skill 2, recovers your HP by 25%, has gone down to 20%. So a little bit of a nerf there on his skill 2, but his passive, they have changed it from increasing resistance by 10% to increasing attack speed by 5% whenever you're attacked. It accumulates up to 10 times. So whenever you're attacked, so he'll get an extra 50% speed over the course of the match there. Which is probably why they've nerfed the amount of healing that he gets, because he's going to be sped up. He's going to be taking a lot more turns. So overall, the healing with the extra turns he's probably going to be taking is probably going to balance out around about the same, but you're going to be getting more hits in, so basically more damage without really losing too much of his healing overall. That's a nice buff for him. That's a really nice buff for him. Like obviously he can't be stunned either, so that's why he's a pretty good unit to bring into things like Fire Bison, Oki, that sort of anything that's stunned basically. So there, that's not bad. Attack speed is a lot stronger than resistance, a lot stronger. So that's a nice buff for him. We'll see how he goes in some gameplay. He's already used a little bit, not a great deal, but like I said, into certain situations, he's a bit of a niche pick, but he's a pretty good niche pick, and he just got a decent buff, so we might see a bunch more of him now. The Fire Assassin. The passive effect, the activation condition has been eased. So the passive effect is activated when enemies recover 10 times, has now gone down to 7 times. Right. And then it ignores, deals damage that ignores defense. So you only need your enemy to heal 7 times now instead of 10. That's like three turns less. That's a reasonable amount. So that's not too bad. The Fire Robo. This is one that potentially could be used for against Oliver. It's a unit that basically gets increased attack bar when your enemy takes an extra turn. So when an enemy gets an additional turn, increases the chance of activating effects by 50% on your next attack. The activation chance resets when you attack the enemy on your turn. Okay, so a little bit of a effect added there, so that's not bad. The Fire, Wind, and the Dark Robos, Blade Crush. Absorbs the enemy's attack bar by 10% each if you attack the enemy with no beneficial effects. Okay, so just a little bit of a buff there. That's very similar to, like, say, the Sky Surfer's skill 1. So not too bad there. The Light Robo ignores the enemy monster's resistance. Passive effect, decrease the attack bar of all enemies by 50%. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. Ignores resistance, so at least it's like a guaranteed now, so you don't have to worry about it missing. The Dryad, Fire, Flower Fog, decreases the duration of beneficial effects on all enemies by 1 turn, has gone up to 2 turns, so that's actually a lot stronger. And then the Dark one, the same thing, Mandrake, decrease the duration of beneficial effects on the enemies by 1 turn, has gone up to 2 turns. So that's actually pretty good. There's not too many units that do a 3-turn buff for things, so basically that's going to reduce it down to and remove it completely in most situations. Obviously the Woos has got a 3-turn immunity and a 3-turn shield, so we'll only drop it down to 1 turn for that, but that's actually not too bad. That's not too bad. The Dryads again, the Water, Fire, and Light Honeybees. If the allies don't have any harmful effect, all allies will recover their HP by 20%, and then recovers the HP of all allies by 15% each without condition. Okay. Okay. So they don't. It doesn't matter now if they have harmful effects or not. If they didn't have a harmful effects before, it's 20%. But now it's if they do or don't, doesn't matter. It's still a 15% heal, no matter what now. So that's perhaps a bit more consistent, more reliable, and not having to have the condition of no harmful effects on to get that heal. So that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Then the Undyne Water Ice Drop freezes for 1 turn with a 35% chance now. Fire Drop decreases the attack power for 2 turns with a 50% chance. The Wind one, Lightning Drop, decreases the attack speed for 2 turns with a 50% chance. Light one, Light Drop, removes 1 beneficial effect with a 35% chance. I'm guessing these are all the skill ones for the Undynes. I'm not too sure. I don't really use them ever. The Dark one increases the chance of landing glancing it for 2 turns with 50% chance. So I'm guessing that's the skill one that they've just had a little something added to. And that's not too bad. That's not too bad. It's something, right? It's a little bit of something extra. The Undyne, the Water one, Revive. Grants soul protection for 3 turns if the skill is used on yourself. Grants soul protection for 3 turns if the skill is used on an alive ally. Okay. So now you can use it on anybody, not just yourself. Then the Light one, Absolute Defense, removes up to 2 harmful effects on the ally target and makes the target invincible for 3 turns. To now removes all harmful effects on all allies and makes the ally target invincible for 3 turns. That's actually not too bad. So it's a full team cleanse as well as invincible for 3 turns on one of the allies. Okay, that's actually not too bad. That's actually not too bad. Bit stronger there. I mean, a full team cleanse with a 3-turn invincibility on a unit is actually pretty reasonable. Pretty reasonable. The sleep effect will be changed. Okay, so sleep. The attack will not land as a glancing hit if you attack a sleeping enemy. Interesting. Okay. That is perhaps an effect change to try and deal with perhaps Douglas. I know a lot of people having problems with Douglas. as well. So now at least if you can put him to sleep, you're guaranteed that your next hit on him while he is asleep is not going to glance. And actually, that has more applications than just Douglas, but that's just the first one that comes to mind. So that's a buff for basically any unit that has sleep in their arsenal, because that's just across the board. So even if you hit a fire unit with a wind unit, if they're asleep, you're guaranteed to not glance. Now, so that's actually a reasonable change. That will change things a little bit in RTA just with that alone across the board there. So that's not bad. That's not bad. Stats of monsters will be changed. The Undines have just had their stats changed to match support types. No worries. Fix some AI on the fire, water, and light Dryads. Cool. A little bit of AI fix, sure. I think they've got a long way to go with that, but and then just some skill errors monsters will be fixed too. Beautiful. Well, there it is, boys. That's the patch. Overall, look, I think we all want more and more out of every patch, to adjust things and change things as much as possible to keep things fresh. But overall, at first glance, I was a little bit disappointed. But the more I've looked at this, the more I think there will actually be some shifts here. They have addressed some of the issues both in Oliver and Nana, through buffs to other units that could potentially help with those. So overall, I'm actually reasonably happy with the balance patch. The fact that coming out now every 2 months instead of 3 months, I think is good. And yeah, not too bad. We'll have to see how all this stuff plays out in the next couple of months in the next RTA season. Siege stuff, I'm not too sure about if any of these Robos or Dryads or Undines will get used there, but potentially now we might see a little bit of a shift in some Siege meta. I'm not too sure. I'm not really a Siege guy to know, but overall, not too bad, and good luck. Hopefully some of your units got buffed, and at least none of them got nerfed, right? This is the big thing with balance patches. Everyone wants to avoid a nerf, and it looks like for the most part everybody did, so there you go. Alrighty boys, beautiful. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.